Welcome to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws, the podcast that cuts through the rubbish to explore the world of neurodiversity. I'm your host, Nick King.
And I'm your host, Kate Fox. And together we're here to explore, understand and celebrate being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world. From ADHD and autism to dyslexia and other quirky brains, we talk about it all.
And go off on tangents. So whether you're neurodivergent, love someone who is, or you're just curious about neurodivergent minds, you are in the right place.
Let's get ready to juggle some words and maybe even a few chainsaws, metaphorically, of course.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our specials of Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws, where we have guests. We have fabulous guests. And we have Jac and Amy from Autism Level UP with us today. Hi. Okay, so I'm going to do your introductions and I'm going to start with Jac because that is the order that I'm seeing you on my screen. So it says Jac is super fun, and I would agree. Super goofy. Super duper, in fact. Nerdy, autistic advocate, and co-founder of Autism Level UP. Jac enjoys supporting autistic individuals and their partners, as well as program elevation, data and statistics, and app and web development. And Jac is a physical activity junkie and continues to meet their intense sensory needs by seeking high impact and high resistant movements. They also have a PhD. Amy is an OT, a development psychologist, co-author of the CERTS model, and the co-founder of Autism Level UP. Amy enjoys supporting autistic individuals and their partners, conspiring as an ally to autistic people, and creative design of useful and accessible tools and supports. And if you have not gone to the Autism Level UP website, you are missing out on huge, amazing, fabulousness of information, and go immediately after the podcast. Okay, so maybe we normally start with let's have a think. So it's hard because I know you and I see you all the time, and I know that you weave your sensory needs and your sensory joy into your work, and maybe that's where we could start. Tell me what that looks like.
I'm going to add one important thing to my bio that is not on the website. I am very classically ADHD. So we'll just add that right in there because that's going to come out and be super important as we go along today.
So ADHD, you forgot to put it in your bio.
Yeah, that's actually probably pretty accurate. Like, yeah, classic right here. You don't think you wanted to say something about weaving sensory joy?
I was actually going to start a little bit with how we came together, which happened, unfortunately, in a way that many people discover their autistic identity going through a huge autistic burnout. That's what I did. And I'm bringing this up because my childhood was like magical. It was like a magical fairyland. The environment around me, the people around me, like they just went with my lead and it matched my profile so well. My mother was a professor of exercise science. Her answer to everything when I couldn't speak or verbalize was like, go for a walk, go for a run, go, just go, move, which for my profile, such a good fit. I ended up playing soccer. I was a goalkeeper. I threw myself into the ground hundreds and hundreds of times a day, over and over and over again. And again, for my profile, so much sensory joy there. And these things were just naturally around me. Like, again, fairyland, fluff, rainbows, all the things I say we shouldn't rely on. But it was like a perfect fit. I went off into my first full-time job, not recognizing these things, some of which very much are sensory joy and joy around interest, joy around passions, joy around sensory, not realizing that these things were, for me, basic needs to function.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks, I was like a completely different human. I was coming home every single day and either smashing things, breaking furniture, kicking through walls, very explosive things, or the opposite, needing to shut everything down, be in complete darkness, complete silence, and sleeping for 26 hours at a time, which is not at all a norm. The job was easy. I could finish the tasks of the job in half the time, but the office, the humaning, what I called the FaceTime, was something I never had to endure. I was always allowed to meet my needs as I saw fit. I was never trapped in this office environment of typing and people chewing and people heating up their food in a shared kitchen and fluorescent lighting and people on the phone and people just stopping by your door to tell you that they need to go grocery shopping because their family's coming, and me thinking I needed to give them money or something. I didn't know how to navigate the day.
Yeah.
And so I went on like this for months, thinking the best part of my life is over. I've made a terrible mistake. I need to go back home, move in with my mother, do some kind of manual labor. So I had some sense I needed input, heavy input. And that's what I need to do, because I would check in with myself. I'd be like, am I suicidal? And I'd always say, no, it's not that I want to die. It's like I can't figure out how to live. And I just went on and went on and went on. And then finally, months and months and months of this exploding, shutting down, melting down, barely making it through, feeling absolutely drained, fatigued, lifeless all the time. I had a thought. And this thought was, maybe I need the help of another human. And that is not a thought process for me, which should have been a big cue right then and there. Such not a thought process. And I sent a text message. I didn't even know. I was like, what am I doing? How do I do this? I sent a picture of a hole I had kicked in my door to Amy. And I said, LOL, I did this. And that was a huge thing for me. And so to make a very, very, very long story shorter and applicable to sensory joy, essentially, as we rebuilt my work at that time, I stayed in that job and I was able to thrive in it because we put back all the things I had naturally supporting me. One of those, major among them, is sensory joy. It is a basic need, I would say. So we started building tools. Once I was recovered, we started using energy and putting out these tools and doing all the things that are on the website that people can download for free. But it started with me. Started with me. I saw like graffiti on a gas pump that said, fix yourself, then fix the world. That's really what I have to do. So sensory joy, I'm going to call it a basic need for autistic people, especially.
Hearing that amazingly powerful story of you, Jac, is making me think, just to quickly introduce myself, because some people might only hear this podcast, Kate Fox, co-host generally. It fits so much with the themes and the ethos that we have in the podcast, of the idea that actually there's not autism and neurodivergence generally is not defined by suffering as a baseline. That's not like where we start. And you, with your description of the magical fairyland childhood that I've had everything you needed, it's like, no, yes, this was how you began and everything was lovely, and then you went out into the world and it shut down. And thank goodness you reached out then to another human who was able to unpack or help you unpack what was happening. So I just wanted to kind of, it's rare still that we hear such a story put in the context of neurodiversity, still so rare, so powerful. So thank you. So Amy,
I'm just super lucky that I'm a sensory mess. And we were in graduate school together and we shared an office. And I had all the mermaid fabric and I had a ball chair and I had all the fidgets. And you used all those things when we were in school.
I did.
because we had a shared office. And she was like, yeah, cool. And then when she flipped over to the full-time job and had to do the 9 to 5 thing, she decided you had to sit in an office chair instead of a ball chair. And so I would like, in addition
I'm so
to
desperate to call it the dark side.
yes,
Can't we?
It is.
And so like she abandoned everything to try to fit what she thought a 9 to 5 job was. And in all that energy, you didn't talk about how you actually like really in your shutdown, you actually stopped communicating. I was sliding notes under the door to try to like get her to like respond to me. So I like
She just spit all over my face.
I totally did. But like, yeah. So all those things were still in the office, but you weren't even accessing them because you couldn't like.
I was looking for any definition of how to navigate this environment that I could, and it was a 9 to 5 professional job, and that's what I did. And like I said, my work tasks were done in half the time, but I just have to sit in this office I have to tolerate this from 9 to 5. Another thing I should say is I would do physical activity all the time throughout my day,
Before
weightlifting, running, flipping myself upside down, all sorts of things. And when I started getting beaten down and using all this energy to essentially build a mask in this environment, I was so tired. The last thing I would think is, you know what? I need to go outside and walk. I need to go do some push-ups. So all of that even got smaller. So worse fit of environment and letting go of the things that bring sensory and bodily joy. It's a recipe for disaster.
And there was nobody there to model that for you. Do you know what I mean? I think that's where we're trying to come in. That difference between, you know, they're now being openly autistic adults out there who are able to, you know, have a table full of fidgets or be on the ball chair. Like, hopefully that there will be more modeling of something, because you were obviously very desperate to be perceived in the corporate model, and that was the mask you were trying to build, and there was nobody else offering anything else that you could even try and build like a different kind of, maybe less painful.
Yeah, it's like
around.
You can't be what you can't see. You don't think that range exists. This is it. And if you can't do that, then like I said, I don't belong in this world. I made a mistake. I need to go away.
And not that I don't belong in this office. I don't belong in this world. That's a much bigger and scarier leap, isn't it? That's
absolutely.
I'm glad you had a safe person. Yay for safe people who you can send really traumatic images to with lol on.
Yeah.
That's some very ND communication.
Exactly where I was when that photo came to me of the door, and I know exactly how I responded. And it was very shocking. But I think it's funny because, you know, I had all these tools and toys and I was using them, but you didn't equate that need. They were just like fun things.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is nice.
And so like as we started working through things, like I would just look at, then I was back in the office more regularly with you, and I would just look at you and be like, go flip yourself upside down. And you'd be like, what? And I'm like, just do it. And then you'd go like sudden back up and you'd be like, oh, it's like an Etch-a-Sketch. And I'd be like, yes.
Yeah, I called it the Etch-a-Sketch effect. You shake it up, it clears everything out.
Yeah. Just flip yourself upside down. Do not talk to me. Flip yourself upside down. That's what I need.
Hopefully you're enjoying our chat, and you can show your support by leaving us a tip, the equivalent of a cuppa, via the PayPal link on our website at neurotypicals.don't-juggle-chainsaws.co.uk. We would really appreciate your help in keeping our podcast going. This is because I'm thinking of people around me at the moment who, and I think this is quite a common late diagnosed adult thing. You know, a lot of the people who've clustered in your circle, they are neurodivergent, but they don't know, they haven't been on that journey yet. And I am thinking of some of them in particular who actually are probably expressing quite often this, there's just something missing. I just want more fun. I just need more something. And they maybe will go for a walk, but they haven't made this crucial connection about how it's not just fun and it's not just play. It's vital to their well-being in every way. And I suppose I am thinking about me as well now, and how I nearly, I come alive in the summer when I can go and swim outside. And then I refer to winter as, well, I don't refer to it as, but I'm going to now, just for dramatic purposes, as the dead time. This is not optional stuff, really, then. It's not optional, or it shouldn't be optional.
Right. I think that explicit link is something that we think about a lot. Oftentimes now, luckily, wonderfully, when we're going into schools or working with parents, they actually have great ideas about regulation and how to support regulation in the schools. But we want them to take the next step of, now you need to make sure this person explicitly knows that this is something they need to engage in these kinds of activities. And this is their right to be able to access this thing so that they can. Because so often we're like, we've got all this support in place and it's going on around the person, which is a phenomenal first step. But then we have to arm them with that knowledge. We can't assume that someone is picking up on this as a need, recognizing it as their right to be able to ask for these things. So taking that next step can be really powerful for people, making sure they're leaving the school or the home or the clinic setting, whatever it is, able to kind of translate those things we had in place for them into the qualities of sensory that they need to engage with life.
Yeah. And I love this idea that sensory joy is a need. Like, it's not just like a regulatory strategy, right? Like, you're getting this input like passively, or something that provides some deep pressure because somebody said deep pressure. It's what lights your body up, and how vital that lighting up is to functioning, right? And I think that's the key. And I think sometimes, especially the neurotypicals, miss that. They just think, oh, they really like that thing. But it's this, it's almost like a life force. Like, the sensory explosion of joy is like, it's life force, it's energy.
Oh, it's even often like framed within capitalism. Do you know what I mean? If you do like, 20 minutes deep pressure or 20 minutes walk, then that child, person, human will come back and be productive for you for an hour. So it's worth letting them have 20 minutes, because they will come and they will, help your business, capitalism, education, figure it, pick one. And it's that sort of removal that, we're only allowed to be joyfully autistic as long as somebody else is benefiting from it.
You've heard of Pleasure Island?
No.
Oh, well, it's an American Disney thing, right?
Yeah, I think
there's a place called Pleasure Island in Disney World. It's supposed to be like adult Disney World, right?
Oh, yeah.
Universal Studios or Disney World. I want to make Sensory Joy Island. I often joke about School of Jac, and I'm going to have this island where we all go to, and everyone just has, they contribute in ways that are meaningful to them. And we teach energy from the ground up. Doesn't matter if emotion resonates for you at all, but Sensory Joy Island. Like, if you had as a goal in school to discover what things bring you sensory joy, what things you need in order to be able to learn, what things you need in order to be able to do things that you want to or need to engage in, to me, those are paramount. Forget academic content. You can do any of that you want if you have this foundation of understanding your basic needs. So Sensory Joy Island, here we come.
I need to take a trip to it, but it is the whole thing. So I researched comedy, and one of my bugbears was comedy is always seen as lower in the hierarchy than seriousness, and that's been embedded for thousands of years in culture. And I have often questioned why it's not necessarily automatic that seriousness is above and privileged above comedy always. And we're back, as Nick said, this idea of, oh, it's more important, it's less important to have this joy. It's just not. can I just quickly, again, I'm thinking of our lovely listener who is going, I reckon that Jac and Amy are maybe from a different place than Nick and Kate. We're just picking this
We
up.
didn't clarify that, and I also didn't introduce you. My introduction failed today.
Well, we wrote what you said.
where apart from like metaphorically and symbolically the different place you are, and we're all in fact psychologically going to be in Sensory Joy Island now. Where are you, and how did you meet Nick?
We are in Rhode Island, USA, so northeast of the United States. And I met Nick through Kieran, our colleague, our joint colleague, who we both admire greatly, say all the nice things about him. And also through NeuroBears. Like the first time I saw NeuroBears, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and then I sent that to you and you were like, oh my gosh. And so that just kind of how that connection came about. And then I figured, oh, she's connected to Kieran, all of that. So yeah.
How is, I'm just wondering about a cultural difference, the work that you do, how recognized is it, let's say, in America, in American schools as vital? Because the impression I get, in Britain, it's still quite marginal, but being recognized increasingly as important, which is why NeuroBears is being recognized as important. Are you pushing a boulder up a hill? Are people going, yeah, we need this? Where are you?
I don't think we work in a single school district in Rhode Island. We have a few in the Northeast though that are very good, very good. In general though, I would say a majority of our work ends up in the UK and Australia.
Yep. It's true.
Yeah.
Canada as well.
Canada. Yeah.
I was just saying before we started recording that I'm starting to see your stuff being cited in like what educational healthcare plans and stuff for children and like WSEN plans. I'm starting to really quite regularly see it cited now, which is amazing and brilliant. And maybe you should just come and make Autism Sensory Joy Land here. We have islands. It could be a literal island.
Yes, we could
have
one.
It would be so fantastic because it would be so individualized. Because I'm just watching Jacqueline and I, because we think about sensory all the time. We truly do live it. So this morning I went to a hot yoga class. And when I say hot yoga, it was 73% humidity and 100 degrees when I walked in that room. Like that level of intensity, like at 6 a.m. this morning, like I started, I went in at 5:45, and you went to a jujitsu class, right? And so then we come out of those like really intense experiences. We're both barefoot. We are wearing the most comfortable clothes possible because we have like same clothes. You know how people have same food? We have same clothes. I'm moving all the time because moving is what feels good in my body. It's what gets my neurons connecting, and it's how I'm able to like articulate thoughts. You're talking with your hands, but you are absolutely in a full extension. She's got clench.
I clench everything. Clench. The clench scale is a real thing. Just look at the cheeks. How tight are they?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And a lot of pressure. You said that and I felt immediately very northern and British and like I might die in that kind of heat. I was like,
you have to love it. Like, but I do. But it feels, I walk in and I'm just like, and the first thing I do is I take a picture of the thermostat and I send it to you so she knows just how hot it is.
It's a routine.
It is a routine.
I love heat too, and I actually love sweating. I'm sure there are autistic and neurodivergent people out there who have are more averse to sweating. But I'll finish some intense physical activity, and something I look forward to in the summer is getting into my car that has been sealed shut and the sun has been beaming through the windows, and it just makes everything drip and ooze. And I said this out loud in jujitsu class the other day, and people were like, ooh.
Yeah, I'm on board with the ooh.
I was like, I don't even want to crack a window.
But yeah, my icon's on the window.
So this is going to be important that Sensory Joy Island has lots of possibilities.
Some people's stims are another person's trigger. Yes. We know that.
Yeah.
But those discussions are so fun. And if we can just make them real discussions, they're usually not even a problem. And they're usually fascinating to think about. Like when you compare, like that is soothing to your energy and you enjoy that. That's bringing you joy in life. That would be death for me. And it's wonderful. It's amazing to see that range. We want that part of the culture as well, to just expect that range. Like, oh yeah, I can't do this over here because if Amy is going nuts with her hands and her body in my visual field for too long, I will stop being able to speak. It happens all the time.
It does. She puts her hood up. If the hood comes up, we know that I've done too much.
The little shield.
What? Oh, sorry, Kate, go on.
It's also a beautiful example to me of neurodivergent relationships and how they can work, where even so when someone's trigger is someone else's joy and vice versa, the way to be okay with that is to be like open about that and open about your respective needs, and to accept sometimes someone needs to put their hood up while someone is joyously expressing themselves with their hands, and that's okay.
Yes, totally. I think like sensory empathy is a real thing. If you have these real conversations with people who feel sensory deeply, they will absolutely understand. I don't think autistic people will be like, oh my gosh, you're oppressing me, you're shutting down my stim. No, they will understand, oh, for that person, seeing me or hearing me or smelling me do this thing is like some other thing for me. That is my biggest form of empathy, sensory empathy. Oh, it's huge.
Absolutely.
That's also quite, because yes, in my new, without making it about me, but in my new show, I get the audience I invite them to stim and to think about their stimming. And I think often between performer and audience, there is an unconscious, like a kinesthetic empathy. And that, and as you're saying, that will sensory empathy, and perhaps neurodivergent people who are more sensorily sensitive in all sorts of ways are actually more likely to have that sensory empathy, and that suddenly makes a huge sense to me. I presume some people somewhere are researching this as a matter of urgent importance, but then they're probably not, are they? What?
Because we don't ask the autistics. We're starting to, but
we're starting. Yeah.
We're starting to, but it's definitely fresh doors in 120 years worth of research.
See, but I think even just like,
so if they can answer the research, then automatically they're not maybe really autistic. They're not the real autistics who have the real problems. So yeah. Sensory Joy Island. Here we
Sensory Joy Island. I'm on board.
People discover, right? That's that sensory joy. I said we're both barefoot, and if we go back and we think about you, little Jacqueline, your mom has stories about how you could not wear socks because of the seams on the socks, like. But like when people talk about, like when I talk about barefoot, for me, it's all about the input. The more intense thing that I can be standing on and the more input I can get, the better. I actually love toe socks. So we're
for those of you only on audio, Jac has made
how does she do it?
Like, ooh, toe socks are the worst ick ever.
Yeah. I love them because they're so intense, but so like to be able to explore, okay, barefoot doesn't mean hypersensitive. It might be hyposensitive, and I actually need more. And like helping somebody figure those pieces out and really what works for them.
Okay, so we promised people half an hour, and this was nowhere near enough. What we would like you to do to our listeners, maybe after this podcast, think about what you would want on Sensory Joy Island. Think about what brings you sensory joy. And maybe, like Jac said, think back to your childhood. What did you do that worked for you that you have suppressed or forgotten or been invalidated or shamed out of? Where can you go back to? Where can you look in your past to find what brings you sensory joy? And if we were imagining our now complete and beautiful plan for Sensory Joy Island, what would it look like? Thanks for tuning in to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws. We're so glad you joined us today to explore the fascinating world of neurodivergence with your hosts, me, Nick King.
And me, Kate Fox. If our conversation sparked a thought, a question, or even a smile, don't keep it to yourself. Drop us a line at hello@neurotypicalsdon'tjugglechainsaws.co.uk or visit our website, neurotypicalsdon'tjugglechainsaws.co.uk, to write in. We'd love to hear from you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, consider leaving us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast platform.
Until next time, keep embracing the unique ways you juggle the chainsaws of life.